Hey everyone, this is Dave here. How you doing? Hey, 4 or 5 days ago, I got tagged by Shaylon Moss to take the quiz from Cosmopoliton. And first of all, Shaylon, I want to apologize. I have been extremely busy around here, and that is no joke. So I'm getting around to it. It is Sunday night at about midnight. And I'm finally getting around to this thing. So let me get started with this. And question number one, how do I stay positive in tough times? That's a twofold answer, I guess. Number one, I'm always a positive person. I've always been a positive person. I'm married to an extremely positive person. My entire family's pretty positive. We've lost loved ones. We've buried children in my family from car crashes. We've buried relatives from drug overdoses. We've had cancer deaths. And we just stay positive. I mean, through it all. And one of the reasons we're able to do that is because of my faith. My wife and I are very strong in our faith and our belief in God. And you know what? We weren't put on this earth to live forever. And we weren't promised that just because you have faith in God, life's going to be a rose garden. But you still got to remain positive no matter what happens in your life, because what happens to you in your everyday interactions with people depends on you being positive and having a good attitude. So other than my faith and the fact that I'm a positive person, staying positive just comes natural to me. It's just the way I am. Question number two, what makes me happy? Life makes me happy. My faith makes me happy. My family makes me happy. Lifting weights and being healthy makes me happy. Riding my motorcycle makes me happy. Even when I'm sitting on the front porch with my wife, looking at the gravel road out in front of us, drinking sweet tea makes me happy. My cats make me happy. My friends make me happy. Fooling around on YouTube makes me happy, and Facebook. I mean, anything I do makes me happy. I've learned to, things that do not make me happy, I learned a long time to eliminate those things from my life. I don't cultivate things that make me unhappy. I don't hang around people who make me unhappy. I don't hang around argumentative people. I avoid them. Life in general makes me happy. Even when we have bad times, there's always something in life that makes me happy. I've even laughed at funerals with loved ones over something. Not laughing at the death of our loved ones, but there's always something, man, that can make us happy. And stay away from negative people, stay away from crazy people, stay away from people who are causing trouble. Don't talk politics, don't talk money. Stay away from those issues. Just the good things in life, man, makes me happy. Number three, when did I feel most out of place? Grade school. In grade school, I was almost a head taller than everyone else. I'm 6'1" now, a little over 6'1", about 6'1 1/4", 6'1 1/2". And in grade school, I was a little taller than everyone else. And for some reason, that bothered me. It bothered me a lot. I can remember telling a teacher one time, I wish I was short. One of my best friends was a little guy named Scotty Stuthard, and he was like, came up to here. It's like, I want to be short like Scotty. And my teacher said, no, be glad you're tall. You can reach cupboards, and you can reach things over the refrigerator, and you can play basketball, which I did. And I'm like, no, I want to be short. Well, I grew out of that by the time I started lifting weights at 14 and started filling out, because I was tall and thin. And when I started lifting weights and filling out, started taking Taekwondo. I just the low self-esteem, feeling out of place, just started leaving. And since then, I don't really ever feel out of place. And if I do, if I'm in a situation or around certain people that I don't feel comfortable around, I'll use that word, I just leave. Because like I said with the question before this, I don't associate with people who are of a negative category at all, whether they're argumentative or I don't want to be in a negative place. So I really don't feel out of place anymore. I don't allow myself to get in those situations. But back in the day, it was in grade school. I was terribly out of place in grade school. Okay, number 4. Worst thing about my inner voice. That question I really don't get because, you know, basically the only inner voice I've ever had is my conscience. Basically, I mean, I'm thinking if we're talking inner voice, we're talking conscience. And our conscience was given to us, whether you believe in God, it was given to us by God, or it was given to us by nature to keep us out of trouble. Now, a lot of people in this day and time with this new age stuff says you don't have a conscience and you don't have to pay attention to it. I totally disagree. I mean, my inner voice, my conscience, is what keeps me between the lines. It's what keeps me from getting in trouble. It's what keeps me from mistreating people. It's what keeps me, you know, from breaking laws. It's what keeps me from doing bad things or saying bad things. So the worst thing about my inner voice, I don't think there's a bad thing about my inner voice, other than sometimes I might be a little too cautious about things. But other than that, I really can't say there's a worst thing about my inner voice. I think I call my inner voice my conscience, and keeps me straight and out of trouble. So, number 5, what words do you use to stay grounded? With my wife, I love you, baby. A lot of words, just positive words. I often rely upon myself for scripture because, again, as a man of faith, there's a lot of positive scriptures out there I use, like Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I've used that so many times. I'm relying upon it now to get through this 600-pound squat on my 60th birthday. You know, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, has been an anchor for me. When I'm faced with something, even a business decision. My wife and I have bought and sold real estate all of our life. We got this nice place here that we actually built. We built this house on this land, and every time we would get in a situation where maybe a contract didn't look like it was going through, you know, we find a way. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can't tell you how many times during arm wrestling tournaments, man, you're at an arm wrestling tournament and there's 100 guys there from all over the country, and you're facing some of the best in your weight class around the country. I can't tell you how many times I've relied upon, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can get this guy in. You know, 9 times out of 10, I'd walk out of there with some hardware. So I guess it would be Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Number 6, what have I changed about my attitude that I admire? Let me tell you about that. For many years, I was not a good person. I spent 10 years in the military. I cussed bad. There's a guy on YouTube who trains people and owns a couple of gyms, and he just opened a few gyms, and he's an African-American guy. He's really big. I'm not going to use names on YouTube. I really admire this guy. I mean, his videos are so motivational. I can watch one of his videos at 2 in the morning and want to go work out. But this guy cusses. Every other word's the F-bomb. Every other word's that That's how I used to be. My wife has shown me, my wife in the years I've been married, has actually shown me how to be a nice guy, how to be decent, how to interact with others on a positive note, with a good attitude. And when I got into my faith, that inner voice we were talking about, the conscience, prompted me to clean up my mouth. And now I don't, that's why you guys never hear me cussing on these videos, because I don't use that language anymore. So a lot of things. The question was, what have I changed about my attitude that I admire? Everything. My cursing, my bad attitude, the way I would treat some people, the way, I mean, over the years I've been married to my wife, and especially the last 4 or 5 years we've been involved in our faith. Yeah, it's all new to me. A lot of things I've cleaned up that I admire, and I owe it to Christ, my Savior, and my wife. And how do I work on my inner voice? That I didn't understand that question the first time I heard it. And I watched Shaylon do this. I watched Greg from Grey Wolf Fitness. I watched Richard Clements. And I still don't understand it. So I'm just going to say it. I don't think we should work on our inner voice. Our inner voice is in there to keep us straight. We're not supposed to work on the inner voice. Our inner voice is not the one that needs worked on. We do. And our inner voice is in us to keep us straight. Our inner voice is there to keep us on track. It's like, oh, I don't like what my inner voice is telling me, so I'm going to work on it. That's backwards. Your inner voice tells you. My inner voice tells me not to overeat. My inner voice tells me, Dave, you shouldn't eat all that pizza. Dave, you shouldn't have that ice cream. I have addiction to ice cream. You shouldn't eat that much ice cream at one time. Dave, don't hit those chocolate chip cookies. You see, my inner voice doesn't tell me to do things I shouldn't do. My inner voice is not wired like that. At least my inner voice. I'm thinking I need to do that, and my inner voice is saying, no, 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 no. Hold on the reins here. Pull those reins up. Don't go that way. When I'm not riding a motorcycle, I was out yesterday and had a close call. Had a person force me out of my lane. Now, right off the flip, I wanted to throttle up and go after the guy, but my inner voice said, no, 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 no. You didn't get hurt. All's well. Pray for the person and go on. See, it's the inner voice that keeps us straight. We don't need to work on the inner voice. We need to let the inner voice work on us. If you're doing something and something in you is telling you, don't do that, you shouldn't do that, that's the inner voice. Listen to it. Too many times nowadays people say we can do whatever we want to do. We don't have to feel bad about it. We don't have to have a conscience. We don't have to feel guilty. Wrong. Whether you believe in God or you just believe in nature, though that inner voice, that guilt is put in us to keep us straight and out of trouble. So we don't need to work on the inner voice. Let the inner voice work on us. So there you have it. The 7 questions from Cosmopoliton by Dave. That's the way I see it, man. And with that, later, Gator.